Welcome back to another episode of the Pilots of the Caribbean podcast, where we talk about everything drones and the people that use them in the Caribbean. And in today's episode, I have a conversation with the president and chief UAS consultant of Drift UAV Services, Mr. Dervon McKellop. Enjoy. Hi, Dervon. Thanks for coming on the Pilots of the Caribbean podcast, man. How you going?
I'm doing good, man. Alan, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure, connecting with you. Looking forward to the chat and the conversations for this interview.
Not a problem, man. This is long overdue.
Very much. But as we would say in Jamaican dialect, nothing happened before the time. So yeah, it's just probably the right time, that we get to connect and share.
Yeah, man, for sure. So before we get into the Drift UAV side of things, I want to go back to the beginning and find out how you found your way into the UAV industry and how did you get to where you are right now?
Okay, well, very good. I mean, it's been a journey, I can say without a doubt, but my journey started in information technology. So I am an IT professional by trade and career. But my journey with drones started, some over 10 years ago. Started by, just being a recreational drone pilot, used to fly in, not so smart RC planes and helicopters back then.
Right.
So that's where the journey began, and it grew. It grew from, just being a fun pilot and, being an IT professional, especially from a solutions engineer perspective. I had the opportunity of not only witnessing the technology, but I also sat on a couple subject matter expert boards and committee as an IT professional. One was I sat at CompTIA as a subject matter expert for a few certification courses, and so then and there, my in-depth knowledge started to grow, because at that time, CompTIA had what is called a UAV, or a drone advisory board. And at that point in time, when I did some time in Chicago, I asked my then director, how could I become a part of the CompTIA advisory board? But no, lo and behold, he looked at me and he said, "Hey, everybody, drones are just a thing. They'll go away in a few years, but I live to see that not happen." And so that's just where, the growth and the development, started and just continued into the drone industry.
So your background was originally in IT?
Yeah, my background is originally in IT. I still do IT, here and there, but I also lecture, because I was an adjunct lecturer at the local university here in the Cayman Islands, and I'll be starting back lecturing actually soon again. So I would say I have a multidisciplinary career, or career field, pretty much.
How you finding time to fit in all of that, boy?
What I can say, I'll give you one typical example. I'm friends with, the IT director at the Civil Aviation in Jamaica. While I was working in Jamaica, he always said to me, "Dervon, I want, to be able to, get so many of the hours that you have in your day, because it seems like you have an extra 8 hours in your day." Because outside of just being an IT professional working in drones, I used to be a personal trainer. So I get up early in the mornings, go to personal training sessions, and get back home, get ready, go to work for 8:30. And it was a cycle. After work, I had a personal training session. And I managed to, people say multitask, but I managed to economize my time in terms of doing various things that I, just become a part of my life and my career.
Yeah, I feel like you should teach a class just on that, because every time I check your LinkedIn, you speaking at something or the other, and then flying, and then schools which you get into, and everything else. I believe that extra 8 hours.
Yeah, well, it's probably more than an extra 8. But one of the things I would say, Alan, is, you have to find what, what motivates you. And I think, and I believe, I believe that these are the things that motivates me, not just, working and enjoying, but also giving back and sharing my knowledge. And that's a key thing that will come up in this conversation about knowledge sharing and, and how we go about doing it and giving back. So, yeah.
So how did that begin and now lead to the formation of Drift Enterprises?
All right. So that journey started, after, doing extensive research in the drone space. I then decided I want to become, more of a more content hobbyist. So that's where it started. So I started the first company or business line was Dervon Dronography. And Dervon Dronography was fun flying, more content creating, company or of the business side. So that started in, or officially in 2019. I did, unofficial stuff here and there, throughout the years, but that was my first registered company or business. And from the start of Dervon Dronography, most persons are familiar. If you're in the drone space, you're familiar with the DJI Pixel competition. So I entered that in 2020, and then the latter part of, or like early mid 2020, I registered Drift Enterprise UAV Services as an incorporated company. So Drift Enterprise is an incorporated company, and beneath Drift Enterprise, we have Drift UAV Services and a couple other business lines underneath Drift Enterprise. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So you kind of took the traditional route in terms of, and similar one to me actually. You started off in the creative space, and then you saw the potential in the other avenues, and then you created a company to kind of go down that direction.
Yeah, most definitely. Because one of the things I was, more, leaning towards, I realized that the creative space was, just creative. Creating, content, pretty pictures. More from my side as an IT professional, I'm more of a solutions engineer and looking at, data. So I wanted to more focus on not just, pretty pictures and cool videos, but, enabling businesses to use that data, to make decisions. And so that was what led me to now focusing on more the commercial side of commercial/industrial side of drones and formulating Drift UAV services, which, was the core focus of that is commercial and industrialized drone services.
And what kind of services do you offer from Drift UAV services?
So currently Drift offer, several services. We offer, one of our core business line is is energy and utility. So we focus a lot on utility at scale inspection. So overall traditional T&D inspections, that's one that we focus on. Solar farms inspection. We focus on inspections for cell towers. So anything from damage assessment to, looking at tower loading. Those are some of the things we focus on. Other core services, including mapping and surveying. We focus heavily on construction, documentation. So you name pretty much most of the heavy services in the commercial space. That's what we focus on. Another aspect is, things like roof inspection, as well as outside of roof inspection, we provide support to in the insurance industry as it relates to damage, capture and stuff like that. So, quite a wide range of services we offer.
And for those that aren't familiar with you, where do you provide these services?
So we provide services in the Cayman Islands, also the wider Caribbean. So we have an extension in Jamaica, in other Caribbean islands, as well as we also have an incorporated entity in the United States. So we also have extensions also in the US.
Tread, please find the time, boy.
What I'll tell anybody is you have to be strategic. And
Yeah.
if anyone knows anything about the Cayman Islands, Cayman Islands is a small island with an average about 85,000 people. In terms of industrialized applications for the things that we're doing in the drone space, there's not much of that. You have a lot of creatives because the space is heavily influenced by content. But outside of that, you will have the construction industry. But for us, when you're talking about utility at scale or transmission and distribution or overall energy, the energy landscape, you really have to start looking outside of the Cayman Islands. So we have done work in Jamaica, the British Virgin Islands, Curacao, you name it. And that's kind of where we find the leverage in terms of the heavy use of the technology, and we're continuing to expand as we grow, pretty much.
So I had another drone pilot from the Cayman Islands. I don't know if you're familiar with him, Omari Rankin.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Omari. Yeah, from Cayman Drone Company. Yeah.
Cayman Drone Company. Yeah, shout out to Omari.
Yeah.
What has your experience been operating drones in the Cayman Islands?
All right, so my experience and Drift overall experience in operating drone in the Cayman is quite easy, I would say. One of the things for us, we focus on less in terms of from a company perspective, we focus on policy and procedures than piloting. Okay. And so I'll say pretty much when I started, Drift on overall Derby dronography, one of the focus was to ensure that we are not just flying or doing just drone because we want to do drone. We focus on, ensuring that we are building a relationship with the civil aviation. And I would say to anyone who is, going to come in this space, you have to know, where you're going and also get the right people, to advise you. So when I started, we built a relationship with the civil aviation. I ensured that I reach out to them, ask them what were the procedures, the policies. And also one of the most important things that I did from a consulting perspective was I reached out to other industry experts, persons who would be able to guide me in terms of the decisions, what to do, where to go. So I've gotten advice from, folks in the local space, but I also want to shout out to, folks in the law enforcement in the US that really, helped me to, take me to the next level. So I got a lot of encouragement as well as guidance and documentation that, showed me what were the rules and also what direction I needed to take. So overall, I'd say my experience with operating in the Cayman Islands is quite easy. You just have to just follow the rules, know when and how and why, and from satisfy civil aviation requirements, and your operation will be green light. And those are some of the tips and guidelines I would say for anyone who is looking to pop into this space. Rules and regulations really apply, and it makes your life easier. And one of the things, it makes the authorities are able to trust you and trust your word.
It makes sense. One of the takeaways coming out of that interview with Omari, and a lot of the feedback I've gotten from that interview, was the conversation around licensing and how it works in the Cayman Islands. And a lot of people couldn't believe, the process and how expensive it is.
Yes.
Is that something that's is that something that's gonna continue in that way, or is it gonna evolve, or do you see that changing anytime soon, or?
All right, so very good point there in terms of the licensing and the process that surrounds that. For us as a commercial drone services company, there is we initially, when I started out, I thought it was expensive, just the process, but it's a process. So pretty much the same way, like a pilot would have to do, a manned aircraft pilot would have to go through the steps or the procedures to gain his first his private pilot license, and then go on to instrument rating, and then go on to a commercial. It's the same process. So for us in that space, yes, some persons who are trying to break into the space might say, yes, it's expensive, but there's a process. So typically, when you are going for what is called a pilot or permit here in the Cayman Islands, you have to go and do an exam, at the civil aviation, and then there is a documentation process of the operations manual based on your operation. So you submit that manual, you pay that sum for the civil aviation team to review that operations manual, right? Once that's done and is satisfying to them, then your permit is granted. Now, it's an annual licensing fee. And you can imagine the process that, every civil aviation, in the US is different in Canada because I'm also a transport Canada licensed pilot as well as a FAA Part 107. It's different in the space, but what I would say, in every business you have to invest. And so the policies here and the procedures is that there is a payment system that you have to go through. But if you think about if Cayman is not the only place that that actually there's a cost for drone pilot licensing. If you check in like Guyana, there is a cost for licensing, and that is also classed in terms of the type of operation. So from my perspective as a heavy commercial drone services company, we don't have an issue with it. Yes, I might say the cost could be reduced, but then that also gives entry to operations that might not necessarily be overall in the guidance of airspace safety and such. So I would say right now the civil aviation is doing a good job in terms of maintaining that, and it's working. And I'm a firm believer, if it's not broken, don't try to fix it.
Understood. You are one of the few pilots that I've had on that have experience working in different regions with totally different rules and regulations. Well, for the most part.
Yeah.
How do you manage that in terms of your business and day-to-day operations?
All right, so very good question there. So in terms of how we manage that in terms of day-to-day operations, so we typically work on we would do more project-based operational work. And so we maintain those relationships through the partners and the clients that we have in these various islands. But also, one of the most important thing, as I mentioned, is building that relationship with the civil aviation. So like in the British Overseas Territory, what you find is that some of their civil aviation requests or permission goes back to the UK. So you have Air Safety International, which also grants like permits for the overseas territory that may not have a full-blown civil aviation team. So, typical example, when we were doing an operation in the British Virgin Islands, we had to send all our documentation to Air Safety International in the UK for them to grant us a permit to work in the BVI. And it's also the same thing in Curacao. Persons may not know, but in Curacao, there's a process also for one, if you come in with your drone, you can't leave the airport with that drone. That drone stays there, and you have to go to like 2 different agencies to have the permits before the drones can actually be released. So in Jamaica, it's pretty much a little bit different, but it's almost the same process. For Jamaica, in terms of operation, there is not a license because currently Jamaica doesn't have what is called any regulations or laws as it relates to drone operation, but they have a guideline, right? And that guideline comes from the civil aviation. So if we're operating down there, we submit a letter to the civil aviation, kind of stipulating time of operation, date, start time, end time, and then they'll send you a letter to grant you that permission, just in case you're operating in restricted airspace and such like. But we overall, in terms of managing that, we have different strategic partners in these locations that helps us. And for me as the consultant, my job is not only to focus on flying, but to focus on the policies and the procedures and ensure that we are always following the regional or civil aviation regulations in those different jurisdictions.
So in addition to your strategic partners, what does the drift team look like? Is it just you, or do you have employees?
Okay, it was a very good question. So the drift team is not just me. So we have about 4 of us as a part of the team. I'm the chief as it relates to chief of operations, in terms of I'm a chief pilot and a consultant, and then we have an assistant pilot. We have somebody that manages the day-to-day ops and accounting and stuff like that. So we have, and then we also have contracted workers who work with us temporarily what we're doing other projects.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I still keep coming back to where you spend the time, bro. Because now you're managing staff, you're managing operations, you have all these different things going on. So one of the things that I've realized from following you on LinkedIn is that you are a champion of harnessing the power of drones and combining that with AI. Where did that drive come from, and what do you see for the future of that collaboration?
All right, so very good. So very good. So one of the points that I made was that I made earlier on was about data and insights, and from that, as I said before, as I would shared, when I started just doing creative work, it felt good. It gives you a kick, but after you've done so many creative projects, then what's next? And for me, as I would share, from an IT solution, from a solution guy, I wanted to deliver something that would be of benefit to businesses. And so when I started focusing on that aspect, I was looking at, okay, what are the opportunities within the space to integrate drones with data analytics, or drones with AI. And so that started out in doing various trial and errors, doing various researches, spending hours and hours gathering data, and then we found that they call it that hit. So during that research, I would have started looking at various partners or companies within the AI space. First company that gave me an opportunity was what is called Precision Hawk, which is now a company that pretty much is off the market. And they gave me my first start in terms of working heavily with artificial intelligence in the energy and utility space, and that grew from just a company giving you an opportunity, and this is from a Caribbean perspective. I was in the Caribbean, and I reached out to these guys, and I said, like, hey, I'm looking to do this in the space, and I share what my vision was with them, and I was connected with the right people. And from then on, it was looking at ways where I could engage companies in showing them the value of not just gathering or collecting drone data, but integrating it with artificial intelligence. So that was on the first project I did, was collecting local utility data here in the Cayman Islands for the utility company CUC, or Caribbean Utility Company, and that was one of my first major energy project using artificial intelligence and drones to couple to make decision making. And then that expanded to solar operations. So started looking at using the drones instead of folks using IV curving to manage large solar farms. We said, okay, look at what were the opportunities in that field. And before I actually started using the thermal side of drones, drone and thermal technology, I actually went and ensured that I was trained properly as a thermographer to be able to manage and able to analyze that data to ensure that what is being output and what we're capturing was to standard, industry standard. So, that was just where it started, and it just kept growing and growing from wanting to, be not just a leader in the space, but also an industry advisor to companies who are looking, for the technology to expand and also manage business operation from that perspective when it comes on to integrating drone technology into the business.
Right. So what I want you to do is break it down for me, right? Because everything is AI now. So if somebody looking at this who's saying like, okay, AI on drones, but what exactly could AI with a drone do? What does that look like to that person? Or what would you explain that as to that person?
All right, so very good. So break it down in layman terms, or the average person can understand. So with AI and drones, I always tell people that the drone is a tool. It's a tool like a hammer. You can use a hammer to do many various things, more than just driving a nail. You have to find what the purpose and the objective is. So typical example breaking down, when you capture data, or we say images, right? The first thing that typically happens is that you frame the picture, you ensure that the exposure is right, the aperture and all of that stuff, fun stuff is good. And then you frame that picture and it gives you a beautiful shot. But then from the perspective of the industrial side, when you take a picture of a utility pole or line or whatever that is, someone will have to go and review those images, right? Normally, that process is done manually by a lineman climbing a pole or use a bucket truck. So we use the drones to first do what is called data collection or the inspection. And then typically you would have myself or an expert in the field analyzing, going through, each picture one by one. And just imagining taking, 10,000 pictures in a day and have to go through and manually reviewing that. And I normally say to folks, after the first about hour of reviewing those images, everything that you would get after that is gibberish. So we use artificial intelligence in that perspective to what is called do image analysis, which one amplifies the amount of data that you can go through and accelerate the process in terms of the inspection. So breaking it down now. So drone takes the image. We have either an API uploading that picture to a cloud bucket immediately by connecting that drone to an LTE connection or Wi-Fi. And if not, after the operation is finished, you then remove that memory stick from the camera, copy those images, upload them to a secure bucket, whether S3 or Azure or whatever that is, and then load them into the AI platform. What the AI platform does is start analyzing those images looking for defects. Those defects that you're looking for are anything that is not normal with the structure. So you might look for pole cavity. You might be looking for a broken insulator. You might be looking for a woodpecker hole. You might be looking for rust or corrosion. You might be looking for contamination on the pole structures. So those are a couple of the things that the AI does. And once it finds those, it tags those and also give them what is called a priority rating. That rating can be, if it's a low priority, high, medium, or critical, it prioritizes. And then what happens is that the next step is what is called the HIL, which is the human in the loop. So HIL stands for human in the loop, where an engineer or another expert in the field goes in and say, okay, all right, these that the AI tag are, high priority, or it tagged this as a low priority, but based on the condition, we want to move it as a medium priority to then carry out the action from it. So that's just on the transmission and distribution side. The same thing on the solar side, where this time we're collecting both RGB or red, green, blue images, and then also we're collecting thermal images. From that, we map the solar farm field, and then we use also the artificial intelligence to go through and pull off that delta data off the images to see, where there are issues in the solar farm. And so then that transition into reporting as well as maintenance actions.
Thank you for that explanation. I hope that persons, listening to this or watching this, that think that drones is just take pictures and record videos, see that there's a lot more that goes into a lot more that it can be used for.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, it goes, I always tell folks when they ask me about, what do I do? I say 10% of my job is flying. 90% is really the hard stuff. And the reason I say this is that anybody can fly a drone. Like today, and I'm true testament to that. Like we have, various programs that, kids at 3-year-old, 2-year-old can give them a controller once, you show them how to start, and they can fly. But the real value behind, the drone is that data. And that's pretty much where our focus is: data, because that drives everything today. If you think about it, drones are involved in every industry that you can think about today. So data is king.
That is true. So you mentioned the 3-year-olds that had to fly, and you recently posted that you guys entered into a partnership with Volatus Aerospace to bring STEM education to not just the Cayman Islands, but the rest of the Caribbean as well.
Yep.
How has that started as yet? And if it has, how has it been going?
So this partnership or this announcement has been like brewing for over about 2 years. I've been working with Volatus to get this off the ground. We have gone through, as with any business, and when you enter into partnerships, there's always the legalese and the agreements going through. So we have been working on this for about 2 years plus now with Volatus, and thanks to shout out to Matthew Johnson, who is a director for educational programs and also precision agriculture at Volatus in Canada, for that trust in me to be able to partner with us in Cayman to bring those programs to the wider Caribbean. So right now we're actually working on one of the programs that we're looking to run in the Cayman Islands later down in the year, which is called SEAR. It's SEAR, which stands for Science Experimental Aerial Research. It's one of the programs on the Volatus Airspace programs where we're using, getting into the high schools, and we're using drones, but not just only drones, but also drones with artificial intelligence to teach the students all about not just that, again, the drone is a tool, but then coupled with artificial intelligence, we're working on one of the main projects that we're currently working on is called a litter project. So that litter project focuses on, using that drone to capture the data, but also building, AI models to identify litter on the beach, in particular areas. So, and if you're looking at sustainability and environmental and the environment, that is a very fitting project to pretty much any Caribbean island that is facing, these type of issues. And that's just one of the many projects that we have, upcoming. There's another project called the Mangrove Project, where we are also looking at, mangroves and identifying different types of mangroves. And we have other customized projects where you can look at water quality, air quality. And these projects are all done, from in the high school all the way up to, college levels.
Nice one. That sounds like some pretty good projects that you guys have going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's as I said earlier, it's shaping up to be, a quite interesting year with a lot of prospects and a lot of, projects inside I'm grateful, for all the persons who have supported, the initiatives, who have also supported us as a company, and also from an individual perspective, who have reached out to continue to give me that encouragement to continue pushing. But I would say, it sometimes becomes a lonely road, and as an entrepreneur, it's not for the weak. It's not for the person who's gonna get up and say, well, I'm gonna build a company and in 6 months it's gonna take off, and in 6 months I'm gonna make enough money to continue. So it's not that way. So, but I'm grateful for all the support, 360, that everyone have shown and given to me, that I can continue this process of building something, not just for myself, but for the community and for years to come.
And speaking about the community, you do a lot of speaking at conferences, not just for the drone communities, but also for like the renewable energy community as well. How did you find yourself in that space?
All right, so very good question. So that is something that I actively do in that space, and it all started from one looking at helping companies to realize the potential that it has, technology and just drones overall having in the space. And so it started from just reaching out to these different conferences and proposing what I would like to speak about, and also showing that value, and that's one of the key aspects, or the key importance to getting in front different audience and people, is to show them the value that these things have, and showing them how it will overall benefit not just the conference but the audience, and the after effect that it will have. And being that we're in a technology driven space, things like in the renewable space, there's a lot of technology that drives that. And so for me, as I said, as a consultant, it's imperative for me to share that knowledge, and to share a broader perspective to conference audiences and attendees, to help them to understand the value of overall technology and the transformation that will happen within the renewable space, within the traditional energy gen space, and as best as possible be an advocate out there for these folks.
How has that been received? Because, in a lot of spaces, when you talk about implementing different technologies and taking out a person physically having to do something, or a team of person physically having to do something, people are usually kind of resistant to that level of change. So when you speak about implementing different technologies and drones and AI, how does that come across as usually received by your audience?
All right, so very good. So I remember one of my, not my first, but one of probably the third or fourth conference that I spoke, that I presented at. I presented in Miami at the Kimpton in like I was 22, 23. And I presented on drones and AI and how it will transform the energy landscape. Now, one of my main takeaway for presentation is breaking it down in layman terms. So show what the benefits are, not just to, for implementing the technology, but show what the benefits are to the people and the overall company. And one of the most important thing about, sharing about, drone technology and AI, yes, drones, you can automate drone flights, but to inspect solar farms and to inspect, transmission and distribution line. But what you can't automate is the human aspect of it. When you find that defect on a pole, you still need that lineman, right? Mm-hmm. But what we put in place is the safety aspect of it. So if you don't need to send a lineman or to have a bucket truck or bucket trucks rolling to go inspect, poles for, your regular inspection, then we say use the drones, because then it means that you can repurpose your human resource to focus it on more critical resources, right? And in any of my presentation, I always ensure that I maintain that human factor. That human factor is to show that, okay, the technology is here to help you, not to replace you. And yes, there will be aspects of where it comes on to, jobs, person's jobs being shifted. But one of the things that, again, I focus on is upskilling and reskilling. So the lineman who, would focus on just climbing poles, now you train him to become a drone operator or a sensor operator. So now he is not just a basic lineman, but he's also now a UAV operator or a sensor operator that focuses on, analyzing and capturing that data. And then you also give them the opportunity to say, hey, this is something that we're going to be implementing. We want you to be a core part of this process. And from that, you say, okay, well, there's this opportunity to be trained to become a thermographer, or to be able to analyze thermal images, or whatever that is, to get them into that process. Because again, if I come in with drones, or you come in with drones, or anybody else come in with drones and not implement it properly and believe that you can replace the people, it never ends well. So one of my key and core focus when I'm doing anything as it relates to speaking at these conferences, to ensure that we maintain the human factor, but also present the pros and the cons, as well as the safety benefits from implementing, drones, AI, as well as the cost benefits as well. Time that it will take time is important to any company. So yeah, that's one of the ways that I go about presenting, this type of technology and transition into the utility and energy space.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best ways to put it across. And I think that's where we've had most of the success doing it as well. But the first response is usually just like, this drone coming to replace me kind of thing.
It's always that. But you have to, like, one of the things I always say to folks when I go into the room, I don't just start to present. I, break the glass, as they would say, or do an icebreaker, or have something grab their attention that, ensures that they're focused more on the solution, but also they can see the problem that is in front of them. And then once it gets to that aspect of where presented all of that benefits of the technology, then you have to now segue into the aspect of, oh, well, yes, this technology is going to make your life easier, but it's not going to replace you. Or even if it's going to be less jobs, then these are the aspect of upskilling and reskilling, retooling, to ensure that no one ever feels left out, and that they leave in a conference believing that 10 or 15% of their workforce is going to go because drones and AI is going to take their jobs.
Yeah. Do you have your speaking schedule already for this year? For the rest of this year?
Not full. It's not fully booked out. I know I have a speaking event hopefully in July. I'm actually also heading off to California next week after next for pretty much the entire week. Be representing the Cayman Islands and the Caribbean for Drone Fest. So it's gonna be almost a wheel of a weekend, attending Drone Fest and just getting a lot of stuff done. But the speaking schedule is still, there's some flexibility in it with what's currently on my schedule. But as it probably touches April, May, it's gonna be start to fill up.
Okay. What is Drone Fest?
So pretty much Drone Fest is coming together of the industry professionals, both in the creative, education, industrial space. It's happening in Palm Springs, California. And it's also pretty much like the kickoff for drone soccer championship, drone soccer qualifiers for drone soccer world championships in September.
Right. So because you mentioned it, let's get into it. K1 Drone Soccer. You recently posted something, and as we talking about it before, you have created what is it exactly? A league or a team? What is Cayman Islands Drone Soccer or Cayman Drone Soccer?
All right, so Cayman Islands Drone Soccer is the national organization for drone soccer in the Cayman Islands. So that means that outside of just being a league or just being an organization, we are pretty much the organization that manages or will be managing, drone leagues. So we are the one that it's pretty much like what is called FIFA. And then you have all the other countries are clubs that, forms beneath it. So pretty much we are like the FIFA of drone soccer in the Cayman Islands. And we're looking to form different, clubs and leagues. And we're also looking to build out a national drone soccer team for the Cayman Islands. And drone soccer go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I just said nice.
Okay. And so we're looking to build out a national team for the Cayman Islands in various categories. So drone soccer, in a nutshell, for those who might be wondering, what is that? So
yeah, I was coming back to that. I kind of jumped the gun a little bit.
Yeah, no problem. So for those who are wondering what is drone soccer, so drone soccer is a new esport in that pretty much uses drones in a netted arena. And it's played by 5 players on each side. And the aim of the game is to pilot the drone to score as many goals in a 3-set game. It lasts for 3 minutes. There are different flavors of the game, but overall the international game, or the game in particular, is played by 5 players on each team. But you can have reduced teams like a 3x3 or 2x2 on each side, and that it goes in. And to even bring a little bit more details into the game, it's 5 drone balls in a netted arena. It's controlled space, and those 5 balls have or 5 drones have various roles. So there's a striker, there's a sweeper, there's a defender, and there's a libero, and also a goalkeeper, right?
Okay.
Did I say that was 5? So pretty much, yeah. So pretty much, only the designated striker actually can score a goal, which scoring that goal means that he's the only one that can fly, or she's the only one that can fly through the goal, right? So if anybody else is flying through the goal, it's not a goal, right? The game is refereed, so you have trained referees. So I am a trained drone soccer coach and also a referee. So overall in that space, you have somebody refereeing the game just like a regular soccer game. You have somebody watching and monitoring the game to see if there's any infractions that are created, and there need to be penalties. So it's a quite interesting game, and it's a sport that is going to take the Caribbean and drones to the next level, and it's going to build on various other things in the space. And I encourage anyone who is out there who's interested in drones, to think about drone soccer. It's a sport that will take you places. I've seen many folks in the US, in the schools, gone to South Korea, travel various different places to play the sport. And the final point I want to make in terms of drone soccer overall, there's like 2 categories. So there is what is called the Class 20. And then there's also what is called the Class 40 drones. The Class 40 is a bigger type of drone ball, and then the Class 20 is a smaller size one that normally is played by high school and middle school students, and then the class 40 can be played by folks like myself who are, advanced pilot as well as collegiate and university students.
Okay. And part of this, especially when it comes to schools, is teaching kids how to build them and program them and fly them, and all encapsulated in a fun aspect kind of program.
Yeah, so there's two sides of and so that's drone soccer is one aspect, and then we have what is called the Drones in School program. The Drone in School program, it focuses on two aspects. It focuses on co-curricular and extracurricular activities. So things like clubs, but in over the other side of it, which speaks to the co-curricular activities, is where we're integrating drones into the classroom. So things like helping students to understand mathematics, or using the drones in subjects like geography or social studies or English language, to teach them concepts or hands-on concepts that they would only think about or hear about, but then we're using the drones as a tool in the teacher's toolbox, and pretty much that gives them the ability to connect with real-world applications using the drones. So that's the co-curricular side. And the fun side of it is now we're focusing on things like, drone camps. We're focusing on, helping them to, be a part of an aerial robotics club. That focuses on building drones, programming them, competing competitions. That's the fun aspect of it, but all tied all of those aspects back into, the educational development program, to advance them to those who want to, enter careers in the aerospace industry, drone industry, the aviation industry, because that's kind of pretty much like a feeder program or a workforce development program that, enable kids, from a young age to connect, directly with technology and aviation and aerospace.
Okay. Do you know of any other drone soccer programs in the Caribbean? Because I know Guyana has one. The conversation is being had in Trinidad, but I don't know as far as gotten. But do you know of any others?
There's no other that I know of outside of the one in Guyana. I know that Puerto Rico has some teams down there, but outside of us in the Cayman Islands and Guyana, I don't know of any other drone soccer program being in the Caribbean.
Yeah, hopefully we could see it pick up in the other islands as well.
Yeah,
I've seen the potential for it.
The potential for it is big. One of the things that I would encourage anybody, out there listening is to, find out how you can get involved in programs. And even if you can't necessarily, bring that investment to start building your own program, is invite, experts, our teams, or, folks to introduce it, and then, get, support from, corporate entities or government entities to kind of bring it in the space, because it opens doors, it opens opportunities, and it also, give, students and kids overall an opportunity to look forward to something that is next level and also next generation.
Yeah. Yeah, as it be just to see how the sport grows in the next 2 to 3 years. Because I've seen some really big advertising pushes out of Korea, the US, Canada. They have a lot of teams that they're putting forward and having their own internal competitions.
Yep. So that'd
be nice to see that here.
Yeah. So pretty much, and that's pretty much the space where we're heading. If you probably think about it, when pickleball started coming in, it was a small thing. Now pickleball is a big sport. And so that's kind of where, drone soccer is heading, and is. In Korea, in South Korea, you have teams in China, the Philippines, Canada, as you mentioned, US, and there's lots of teams across the US that are always, vying to be a part of that national team that wants to go to, world champs for drone soccer. So you can just imagine, yep.
So, we've been running for a little while, and I know you're a busy guy, so I don't want to keep it too long. I just have a couple more questions for you. Yeah?
Most definitely, that's fine, man.
you have a wide range of experiences and exposure across different industries, countries, regions. What is one thing you wish you knew about the drone industry or learned about the drone industry before choosing as a career?
Well, I was looking forward to this question. One thing I would one thing I wish I knew about the industry is one. I would say it's more than one thing, but I'll couple it in a paragraph. Is the cost of doing business, but also the process that needs to be taken to ensure that you're doing it right, and doing it right by the books as well as by the regulations, as well as by just from a moral perspective. So that's one of the things that I wish I knew. I wish somebody had told me that this is gonna be an expensive venture, starting out, and will continue to be once you are looking to, be cutting edge, as well as you're looking to grow. Like one of the things that no one, initially told me was that, for, heavy commercial, application, you need, big insurance policies or big insure to cover your operation. The next thing, nobody told me in terms of the advice, they would have given. So look at X and look at Y, but nobody told me that okay, you need to have a lawyer and to help you with the process of things. And this lawyer in that case is an aviation lawyer. One of the processes that we did for operation when we wanted to operate a heavy lift drone, and we wanted a waiver out of the US, we had to ensure that we got an aviation lawyer to file all of that paperwork to ensure that we could get that waiver to fly a drone over 55 pounds. So those are some of the things that, people who are starting out, they never tell you this, but as you go along, you realize that, to get through that door, you need to probably knock on that one or call somebody to open it for you. And so those are, some of the lessons learned for me. And in terms of opportunities, that open, a lot of opportunities in connecting with these various persons. And, once you are, a trusted advisor, people will always, be willing to connect you with somebody else in the industry that has more expertise, more experience, and can give you that guidance.
That's fine. So that would lead into what would be your advice for persons looking at the industry wanting to get into it, or younger persons coming up looking for future careers or lining themselves up for university and things going forward?
All right, so very good question. So I have a few key points that I will share with anyone that's looking to break into the industry, in the industry already but want to grow. The first aspect that I always share with anyone, I always say seek out formal training. I tell people knowing how to flying a drone is not good enough. So that's one. The next aspect is, know the rules of, the aviation or air safety, depending on the jurisdiction that you're living in. I'd also share to acquire a local or international drone pilot license, whichever is in your remit. The next thing I always say, invest in yourself. Invest in knowledge, invest in, training, invest in whatever you can invest in. I would say invest in it to build, your knowledge capacity, to build your exposure. The other aspect is take specialized courses. For me, I've taken, a lot of specialized courses outside of just doing advanced piloting courses or doing, thermographic courses. I've also done, courses in crime scene photography, using drones. Yeah. So there are a lot of skills that I have currently that I don't necessarily use on a day-to-day basis, but crime scene photography, accident reconstruction, or some of the specialized areas that I am specialized in and can function in on the go. The next thing I would share is, network with industry professionals. So join professional groups. So like for me, I'm a chapter member of AUVSI Miami chapter. So, that's where you get to connect with a lot of other experienced drone pilots, industry professionals, C-level executives. That's where you're gonna meet people who are gonna be able to guide you.
Okay.
Other thing I would say, be willing to unlearn. I might sound out. Be willing to unlearn to what you know to learn in a formal way. And folks might be wondering why. There are a lot of folks that I've run into who, they're very good pilots, but when it comes on to knowledge gap and, doing it the formal way, they are lacking in that. And so I would always say to anybody out there, if you're in the industry already or you're looking to break into the industry, also be willing to put aside all that and allow, somebody, from an expert level, from an experience level to teach you and to guide you into the areas that you want to. And maybe two other final points I would say to anyone who's also, looking into the industry, specialize. Starting out, focus on at least one thing that you're very good at and build that skill, build that body of work, and then look at other areas that you can now incorporate or take on. Don't try to be what is called broad-based. Don't try to look at every single opportunity that you want to, because that in itself is going to confuse you. That in itself is going to lead you in a place of, either being broke because you're going to try to buy every piece of equipment that comes out. And that's going to lead you to also being not knowing what opportunities you want to go at. And the next thing I want to share is also focus on end-to-end solutions, which is critical. These days, if you approach, any client and you say, hey, I can take some pictures for you, or I can capture this, but what is it that you're presenting to them? The formatting, the results, focus on an end-to-end solution. So deliver something that the client can take right away readily and make decisions based on the data that is shared. And last but not least, I would say in terms of advice to someone out there is to be a trusted advisor. And once you're a trusted advisor, you will always, people will always come to you, whether they know you or they don't know you, but, someone might hear them talking about you or share your work. From your trusted advisor, you can bank on that as your paycheck going to the bank without even having a paycheck, because opportunities will always come up from being a trusted advisor.
Nice one. That is some excellent advice. Dervon, my brother, thank you very much for coming on this episode of the Pilots of the Caribbean podcast. Where can persons find you, get in contact with you, learn more about you, Drift, Cayman Drone Soccer, and the things that you all have going on?
All right, so the persons can find me in the social space. I'm on LinkedIn as Dervon McKellop. You can also find the company Drift UAV Services on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. It's all there. Once you search for Drift, you'll find us. So also our website is Drift. That's DRIFTENTS.com on the web. So definitely I would say we're in every space. So search for Cayman Drone Soccer, search for our Drones in School program. It's all there on the internet, what we're doing, the work that we're doing. And we, are looking to expand, the stuff that we're doing to other Caribbean islands. And we're always looking for, new ventures, new partners to, expand the programs and expand the reach. Because my belief is that, if you have the knowledge, share it. It doesn't make any sense you keep it to yourself and not share it. And then I just probably want to mention a few notable projects that I would have worked on,
Sure, no problem.
during this space. So in the film and movie industry. So I would have been the drone pilot operator on Top Chef Canada season 10. That's one of the productions, notable productions that I would have worked on. And also I was a drone pilot on a movie called Daniel's Gonna Die with Bob. So Daniel's Gonna Die with Bob Seagat. I was the drone pilot. I've been in the creative space, work on, many major productions, road races, events, local carnival scene and stuff like that. So the work, continues, I would say, and, it's building that reputation that gets you or gets anyone to that space or place that you need to be. And I just want to encourage, anyone out there who is watching this podcast, who is, thinking about breaking into the industry, don't be shy. Be strong, because if you're starting a DSP, or you're starting a small outfit, it's gonna be, a tough space to come into, with, I would say, with a lot of, ups and downs. But if you stick to the plan and you stick to the goal and you know the objectives and the opportunities that you're looking for, you will succeed. And just as a pointer, always remember to seek out, advice, to, listen to folks in the industry, and not only just, watch YouTube videos. And that's somebody you also want to connect and network with, actual persons who have those actual experiences. And remember to seek that training. That aspect of it is very, very important. Doesn't matter how long you're flying drones for. It's important for you to, know that formal training goes a far way, than just saying, oh, hey, I'm going to fly here, I'm going to fly there. It makes your life easier, and it keeps you out of trouble.
Yep. Anything in particular we should look out for from Drift for this year?
Yes, there are a couple of things that we're doing in the space. We are launching a couple new programs. Won't say it right now, but you can, if you keep an eye on our social space, as well as our professional connection page, LinkedIn. We'll be doing a couple exciting stuff on in the space, and that looks like, and I can give you some insight at what it looks like. We're not only focusing on just education, commercial, but we're also breaking into a new space that we believe is fitting in the industry, that focuses on staff professional development and stuff like that for organizations. So those are some exciting opportunities and programs that we're looking to launch, probably by about July thereabout. Everything should be ready. So that's one thing that we're looking to launch. We have been doing our drone pilot certification and training program, and we're expanding that more and more to other Caribbean islands. So folks who wants to training and to become a pilot, and that is from basic pilot to advanced piloting. What we're focusing on, training for utility workers or organization who currently have drone pilots and want to scale their team. But from a formal perspective, we're providing that, and a couple of other stuff that I'm doing in this space. So it's gonna be an exciting year, and I'm looking forward to it, with God's grace and guidance. Like today, I sit on what is called the technical committee for the Bureau of Standard Jamaica, in terms of building out that the Bureau of Standard Jamaica Technical Committee for their drone, for their UAV policy. So right now we're writing that to see what UAV operation overall in Jamaica would look like. And also I'm sitting as well as a lead group for the Hartrust NTA, which is the National Training Agency of Jamaica, where I sit on the lead group as a part of that team that writes the curriculum for what is called the Level 2 drone pilot training and certification. So a lot of things that I'm as I said, I'm involved in this space, and I try to, as best as possible, to give back, to share, to lend my expertise, because for us in the Caribbean space, we need, players who are actively working in the industry. We also need that knowledge to be shared across a wide level of persons to ensure that the knowledge is shared and there is a collaboration between organization entities, both government and private corporations to ensure that we are adhering to international standards as it relates to the operation of drones in this space.
Cool. Thank you very much, brother. And don't be a stranger. When you launch your programs, you can come back on and we'll be glad to have you talk about it.
Most definitely. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, right now, one of the things I can say is that we have, a lot of media stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks to talk about, the stuff in the space and what we're doing. And I'll definitely, ensure that I keep you up to breast with what's going on, that we can, have another follow-up session to, when the programs are launched and, things are, going and to give an highlight to, to what the reception of these activities are. And so it's a pleasure to, to sit and chat with you and to share the insights as well as the knowledge and, so give, folks out there the ability to understand that, you can do anything that you want to do. You can have 24 hours in your day plus another additional 8 like me. But yes, you can do it. Just, do it right. Connect with the right people, and the sky, as they say, is the limit, believe it or not. Yep. But thanks much again for having me, and shout out to all the drone pilots in the Caribbean, and looking forward to the next person who will come on to share their knowledge and expertise. And I like to see growth, and I'm wishing you as well as a colleague in the industry all the best, growth 100%, 100-folds in 2025 and beyond. And for any pilot out there, drone pilot out there that is listening, let's connect, as Caribbean brothers. Let's, work together to collaborate on, projects and stuff like that, and make the industry something that is more than just, one man over here or one operation over there. Let's collaborate and build this industry together in the Caribbean.
That's why.